You're still watching Financial Markets, and my name is Anthony Sebale, and I am your host. Thank you for deciding to watch business, deciding to mean business this morning, and of course, choosing Smart 24 TV, your number one business channel in East Africa for your business content. Now, let's take a look at Stanbic Bank. Like I promised, Stanbic Bank is one of the gainers, and we're seeing that he came into one of the top positions at the end of the markets yesterday, and Stanbic Bank came at a price of 20.67 Ugandan shillings as the closing price, after gaining by 0.48% on the stock market yesterday. And Stanbic Bank Uganda at a 20.67 was the gainer, who actually has been losing for quite some time since the month began, since of course closing February. And on the Uganda Securities Exchange, we've seen that Stanbic began with the 26 Ugandan shillings price at the beginning of the year, but has since lost 20.5% of that price, as we see. And in terms of this year-to-date performance, it is ranking in position number 13, or out of the 18 listed equities on the market. And Stanbic Bank Uganda is the fourth most traded stock, however, on the Uganda Securities Exchange over the past 3 months as well, from the 27th of April to the 3rd of August 2022. Stanbic Bank has been trading, and in this period, a total of 8.62 million shares that are valued at 190 million Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of 136,878 shares per session. A volume high of 1.7 million was achieved on the 20th of May within this same period. Now, Stanbic Bank, when you look at the graph for Stanbic Bank performance, you see that generally there's been a decline because all these companies, like you can see the index from the year-to-date performance perspective or point of view, there's been a decline in prices. But when you look at the volumes, these are people that are trading over 8 million shares in 3 months. You don't see that very often on the Uganda Securities Exchange. So we can give them credit, at least, for being able to have a very active counter with a huge amount of volumes that are being traded on the stock. And one of the indicators, like I said, for a performance of a given stock is how much volumes, because these volumes give you liquidity whenever you need this money. Look, you're going to have to invest in the stock market, yes, but you might need the money. Where are you going to find the buyers? You don't have to buy into a stock that people don't sell on, people don't buy in, and you end up there because of probably the price or what. You need to be informed on how much activity has been on the counter. This is very, very important, and I cannot emphasize that any further. And in terms of performance, Stanbic is giving us a very good show here on the market. They have been listed since 2006, matter of fact, 2007, in January. That's when they got listed on the exchange, and they trade with a total maybe capitalization right now at 1.06 trillion. They have the fifth most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and that is a 4.73% of the entire exchange. Their total shares that are outstanding are 51.2 billion, that make this capitalization of 1.06 trillion, as we can see it on the market right now. Yesterday, we had a total of over 692,800 shares traded on this counter of Stanbic Bank, and there was a total amount of about 14.3 million that was traded yesterday. Now tell me which business does that. Yes, they are there, but which small businesses that we usually want always start with when we are investing? Not many. So think about it. 14.3 million in a single day on a counter that only trades at 20 shillings per share. Meaning people are actually able to gain a lot from investing very little amounts of money. With 20,000 shillings, you have 1,000 shares. With 200,000 shillings, you have 10,000 shares. And you see this counter trading over 14.3 million on a single day. And certain highs, as we can see here, on a certain day, they traded about 1.7 million, a volume of 1.7 million shares on the 20th of May. This is activity. This is exactly what we are looking for in a counter. So is Stanbic Bank an investable stock? Yes, it is a very good opportunity for investors, especially looking at its price of 20 shillings. It's quite affordable. It's quite active on the market. It's also one of the counters with the highest capitalization, coming in the position of number 5. So I would definitely advise you to go for Stanbic Bank Uganda today. The market is open right now. It opens at exactly 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. However, the settling days for a transaction are 3 days. So if you buy shares today, you will be able to receive them on your Securities Central Depository account 3 days from now. That is around Friday or Tuesday next week, because we don't trade on weekends. So you're seeing that you'll get them probably Monday, Tuesday. That's when you'll be able to get them onto your account. Same thing with selling. You also need to give it 3 days of transacting, to give people time to actually work on your share. And Stanbic Bank is not alone in the financial services sector. Amongst the listed equities, we still have several other listed equities that are dealing within the same sector. These include Equity. Equity Bank, on the other hand, is the most valuable with a total of over 5 trillion Ugandan shillings worth of shares on the market, and a year-to-date loss of 2.66%. By the way, when you compare that to the year-to-date loss of Stanbic, is about 20.5%. So still on the year-to-date loss, Stanbic is still performing better than Equity. Then on the 1 year, just look at the statistics here for Stanbic. Stanbic has lost a value of 19.2%. On a 6-month basis, it has lost 20.5%. On a 3-month basis, about 17.3%. And on a 4-week basis, we have about 3.86% loss. And then on a 1-week basis, we still have a loss of 1.52%. Amongst the competitors here, I think the only person in terms of year-to-date who has been able to gain some value is National Insurance Company Corporation at 17.7% gain. All the others, KCB, you have Centum, you have Bank of Baroda, still have a negative year-to-date performance, meaning they have still lost some bit of value on their counters here on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Let's look at another company here. MTN Uganda also came as a gainer. MTN actually is becoming quite something on the market. You see at least some volumes traded every single day for MTN. You see them gaining, losing. So I think in terms of activity, MTN could be the most active counter right now as we speak on the stock market. And I will repeat this, MTN just listed a year ago, less than a year ago in December. And this was after its IPO, successful IPO, which of course saw the company get listed onto the exchange on December the 6th, 2021. It trades under the ticker symbol MTN, and the International Securities Identification Number is UG0001566. And MTN Uganda, in terms of value, is the second most valuable stock, coming only after Equity Bank Limited there on the market. And it has a total of 4.2 trillion Ugandan shillings worth of shares listed on the market, given the current share price of 187.46. And this is about 18.8%, 8% of the entire equity market at the Uganda Securities Exchange. And when you look at the performance, yes, the graph looks good, gaining by 2.46 Ugandan shillings on a daily from 185 to 187.46 Ugandan shillings, and that was a 1.33% onto their pricing there. This was as a result of over 500,850 shares that were traded on the market yesterday. That was 93.9 million. Wow, that is quite something. You can see 93 million on a single counter in a single day traded. And the shares outstanding stand at 22.4 billion shares that bring the capitalization to 4.2 trillion Ugandan shillings. That is the MTN counter stock, their performance, ending with 187.46 Ugandan shillings. However, MTN began the year with the price of 194.9. MTN as well as an option for investment. You can see on certain days they have volumes as high as 500,000, you have 82,000, you have 234,000, 266,000, and so on and so forth. And these are still giving us a very good show here on the Uganda Securities Exchange. So kudos to MTN Uganda, and we hope to see even a better performance at the end of the day. Now let's look at least one loser here before we wind up these markets for you. looking at the summary, Umeme, I'm just choosing Umeme here because Umeme has been one of the best companies trading on the stock market. But recently, things are changing for Umeme. Umeme lost yesterday by about 0.18 shillings to close with a price of over 190 shillings, and that was a 0.09% daily loss. And you can see that the closing price was exactly 190.00 Ugandan shillings. Umeme trades under the ticker symbol UMEM and was first incorporated in Uganda as a private limited company in 2004 and later converted into a public company in June 2012 under the Companies Act. Umeme is a subsidiary of Umeme Holdings, which is itself a subsidiary of Actis Africa Infrastructure 2LP and an investment fund under the management of Actis. And though, of course, under this company is through the Mauritius bigger company called Actis. And Umeme took over the distribution and supply of electricity from the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company in the year 2005 under a 20-year concession period for this farm. Umeme is listed on the USE and has been listed since the 30th of November 2012, and it trades under the ticker symbol UMEM, and it's currently the 10th most valuable stock, with a total of 309 billion Ugandan shillings worth of shares on the market that are listed, which makes it about 1.38% of the Uganda Securities Exchange entire equity market there. And Umeme, if you monitor their performance on the graph, you see, there was a sharp decline a while ago in the month of July from 240, 225 to over right now what we are seeing at 190 and 198 as we have been seeing in the recent past. Yesterday they traded a total volume of 23,700 shares and the gross turnover was 4.5 million. That is the worth of these 23,700 shares that were traded on yesterday. The shares outstanding, however, are 1.62 billion and the capitalization is 309 billion as mentioned earlier. Now, Umeme began the year. We always want to see how you began and how you're doing right now. Just like an individual, you evaluate yourself basing on your yearly resolutions, basing on how you start the year and how you are at the moment. How far have you gone into your resolutions as an individual? Still, we look at the company's beginning of the year price and we compare it with the company's price today. Umeme began the year with 189 Ugandan shillings and has since dropped off 0.53% of that on that price, ranking it the 5th on the Uganda Securities Exchange in terms of year-to-date performance. And investors should, however, take caution of Umeme's recent poor performance, having lost about 20% in the last 4 weeks. Just about 4 weeks ago, the counter was trading at over 240, 250, and right now at 190, meaning it has lost 20%, precisely mentioning 20% of their price since the beginning of the last 4 weeks, which is a month ago. However, Umeme is still the second most traded stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange over the past 3 months, and Umeme has traded a total volume of 28.8 million shares within the period of 3 months from April 27th to 3rd of August, and they are valued at 6.85 billion Ugandan shillings worth of shares that have been traded with an average of 457,364 shares that were traded per session, and a volume high of about 7.44 million shares that were achieved on 20th of May for the same period. And when you look at their volumes here and there, you see much activity. You see 23,000 yesterday, you see 983,000 on the 2nd of August, you see 18,900 shares on the other day of 29th of July, and so on and so forth. And meaning in as regards performance, they have been able to maintain a very good activity on the market, and we have lots and lots of hope in this particular counter here on the Umeme company. Let's look at the summary of trading yesterday, and if you look at the other companies that traded, we see Cipla trading also some volumes. DFCU Bank also traded some volumes with about 1,000 shares that were traded yesterday, and the closing price for DFCU was 547 after having lost about 1 shilling off their price there. MTN traded 500,000. Stanbic traded the highest volume of over 690,000 shares. Uganda Cranes traded about 14,000 shares, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, we had a total of about 1.2 million shares that were transacted yesterday, and the total value of money within these shares was 114,772,500 shillings. Quite an awesome figure there for the Ugandan market. Compared with the previous USE trading day, Tuesday, we had a 5% improvement in volume. Like I've seen, the volumes improved, but a 44% decline in turnover. The turnover, however, went down. And when we talk about turnover, we're talking about the monetary value of those shares. Yes, there were 1.2 million shares, and they improved the volume, but the turnover still was low. So mainly we traded on counters with very low prices like Stanbic, Cipla, and so on. The current market capitalization of Uganda Securities Exchange stands at 22.4 trillion Ugandan shillings at the moment. And in aggregate, when you look at, we already looked at the all-share index, which went down. But when you look at the local company index, it went up by 1.16% to reach 274.9 points. Meaning our local companies here had some improvements here and there in trade, improvements in volumes, and they performed well as regards the company's performance here on the market. There was, however, a 4-week, we still have a 4-week loss there's still a 4-week gain, actually, about 4.14% on the local companies as well, and an overall year-to-date loss of about 15.33%. That brings us to the end of the stock market at the Uganda Securities Exchange here, and you can find more information on our website www.smart24tv.com, or you can also find it on www.ugandasecuritiesexchange.or.ug, where you can also find your easy portal for you to be able to open the portal to open your SCD account online by visiting that website, putting in your details, your identification numbers, your passport photo, and so on. We are going to take another quick break. We'll return with our last segment, looking at other markets elsewhere in East Africa. Stay with us.